Yeah, another determinism video. Yay! Well, anyway, since we're on the subject, we might as well beat it to death. And what we're going to end up doing is just beating language to death. So I just saw the Modern Mystic, saw the first couple of minutes of his video, and he's playing one of my videos, but of course he's only going to play a little tiny piece of it, and that's kind of useless. And he catches me on the fact that yesterday, at this point in the video, at this very spot almost, I said, inevitable's not inevitable. And then my brain compensated for it by giving the qualification sentence of, well, you know, in the context of the fact that we can't see the inevitability. You know, that from our perspective, inevitability isn't visible. It isn't accessible. And so we play from an environment where there's no inevitability from our perception. And we have to behave by these probabilities and possibilities. So there's the irony. So and then in his video, he uses the word, it's not likely. Yeah, so I could catch him on that, right? I could just play him saying, it's not likely. Well, that would be stupid, right? I mean, that's a determinist saying it's not likely. Like he just explained how it's a movie just running the universe, and that it's all predetermined based on whatever the Big Bang did, and we're stuck with it. And of course, that's the truth. I can't run into the tree unless I run into the tree. I mean, there's no whatever's on the film, whatever my acting role is, my brain's going to read its script. That's the script that's going to be read, and that's it. I'm going to play my part. And that's all there is. There is no outside of that container. There is no absolute truth beyond that absolute truth. But again, the argument is we're not outside the container. We're in the container. We're the movie running. Okay, the movie that's running can't see what's on the film, even though it's going to be fundamentally deciding what's on the film. It has to run through the little flipper, okay, before the next frame can come up. It has to do its thing, and it will do its thing. But clearly from here, all right, we can't see that. And if we could see that, if we could see the future frame, I guess I would argue that that would totally change what we are, and change what we do, and change that future into something else. So that feedback is fundamentally destructive, atomically. If you play the future to the past, you'll fuck up the past and then fuck up the future. So you can't do it. It can't happen that way. Meaning what? Meaning that might be the very phenomenon of our consciousness, which is also a sub-subject of this subject, is the nature of consciousness and freedom and all that kind of crap. But the nature, it might be that very phenomenon, that the feedback loop has a limitation, and our brain pushes that limitation, like the camera focused into the screen, and it does the strobing thing. Our brain is strobing, and that's what we feel as consciousness, is the strobe. So anyway, as we feel as feelings anyway, it's made out of that strobe effect. So your brain plays with the strobe to create what we might call the sensation of pain or something. The pain might be strobing, and it ups or lowers and changes the frequency of that strobe and that frequency, and that fucks us up and creates a sensation, and we avoid the sensation because that's how the brain's programmed, blah, 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 blah. So anyway, so once again, the fundamental point I'm making is that we, from this perspective, can see paths. And we can understand that certain things happening will make certain other things not possible to happen. If somebody says, this tree will be Jesus Christ and it will save the world in the future, right? Because he has a vision or something. He has some sort of, and everybody thinks it's good because he's really good at this stuff. And I cut the tree down. I've just broken that vision. That future can't happen now because I cut the tree down. Game over. Something else has to happen now. And what I'm saying is that we can see signals in reality now that indicate possibilities and probabilities, that indicate that it's getting more difficult for certain things to happen if certain things happen. And we can recognize those signals that something's wrong. We can see the water turning brown and say, hey, maybe we ought to fix that because we don't want to drink brown water. And that process of recognition may be inevitable, is inevitable, but and it's a logical function, and it's an appropriate function, and it's a function we should engage in. And that's all I'm advocating for, is that when we recognize that something's going foul, that we do the logical thing, correct for the foul, and inevitably make the future a better place. That the inevitable, for the inevitable happen, people will need to do that. That's a fact of the inevitability. And I'm just saying, if people aren't going to do that, they're not going to recognize the water's brown and we got to go figure out why and stop it, then you all die of, brown water syndrome or whatever. And you will fail in some catastrophic, dismal way. There. Not complicated. Yeah. So, anyway. But that's the difference between like this, this silly fatalist perception that no matter what I do, certain things will happen, and the determinist view that yes, what will happen is inevitable, but while it's happening, I'm going to sense it as not inevitable. I'm going to sense it and understand it as something that is only possible, and that somehow I have to make it inevitable. It can't be inevitable unless I do my realm of possible thing in a logical manner to make it inevitable. In the end, what I'm saying is logic and understanding and intelligence has whirled through this process. It is the process. The process filters for it. And we're capable of displaying, in a way, that logic. And we should maximize that function in ourselves. We should see that function as a vital function. That thought alone empowers us to amplify the power of the logic. The more we focus on it, the more we play with it, the more likely the future that will be the good future and not the bad future, because we will fix the brown water and we will do this path instead of whatever, that way. Yeah. We'll go where logic takes us, not where stupid distraction or selfish nonsense takes us. But you can't negate the fact, though, that every evidence from history is that the people that made things happen, that were vital to things happening, weren't sitting around talking about determinism. They were doing things in the world to pave the road to the future they were vital to creating. That really should be enough. So we'll see what the mystic does. I won't presume he's going to hatch it, but he's starting off that way. Yes, I make verbal errors all the time because I'm using language that sucks. I explained that in the last video you probably haven't seen yet, but it doesn't matter. Yeah, if the language was better, this would be easier. But all the words that we have to be qualified, and sometimes we're not going to be perfect in our qualifications. But there's no excuse for implying that I'm suggesting there's something other than an inevitable future. It is inevitable. And if the inevitable future is a good one, I'm merely arguing that people now will have to make it. And they'll have to understand the idea of good for that to happen. I didn't break any rules there, I don't think. Yeah. Logic will have to win now if it's going to be perfected in our actions in the future. Yeah, pretty much. Okay, till next time.